1877 was a big year here in Montana. I'm standing here at the site of the Battle of Canyon Creek, fought on September 13th, 1877 by members of the 7th Cavalry and the tribe of Nez Perce. It's a very small battlefield here, but it was significant in the story of the Great Flight of the Nez Perce. The Flight of the Nez Perce began when the United States Army began trying to take Nez Perce territory, and refusing to sign the treaty, they left and marched over 1,000+ miles, hundreds of them included women and children, to escape the U.S. Army. And the U.S. Army pursued them from Washington down across the Yellowstone, up through here in Montana by Billings, and eventually all the way into Canada. This is one of the locations of the final skirmishes of the Nez Perce War here. Pursuing them thousands of miles, the Nez Perce came up here with the U.S. Army under General Sturgis on their heels. The 7th Cavalry, the same group that was at the Little Bighorn, I believe. Now the Nez Perce came up here and they took shelter up along those ridges, on those rocks. They got in the rocks and they prepared to face their enemies. The women and children began making their escape, and what the Nez Perce wanted to do here was to buy time for Chief Joseph and the other ones to cross there and escape. The U.S. Army came up from that location. They came in a large formation and charged up into this valley, straight into the rifles of the Nez Perce along the hills. The charge of General Sturgis came right into the rifles of the Nez Perce. There they made a very stiff fire and held them off for hours. The U.S. Army managed to escape with little casualties. However, they were defeated and could not bring the Nez Perce off of these bluffs. And after a very heavy afternoon of fighting and taking relatively light casualties, the U.S. Army withdrew. However, the Nez Perce managed to take away their enthusiasm for the march. This came at a price, however. When the U.S. Army came up here, the Crow Scouts stole many of the horses the Nez Perce had for them, and they lost those horses, which would be a huge blow and would further eventually hamper the eventual defeat of the Nez Perce. So on this ridge behind me, the Nez Perce made a final stand and managed to get away with it. Only about 4 United States soldiers were killed, about 11 of them were wounded here in this plain behind me, and only a few warriors were killed or injured on the ridges above. This was a very close call for the Nez Perce, and they managed to get away with a great victory. However, it would not last. The Nez Perce were eventually captured right before they crossed into Canada. So here, along with other sites all along the American West, are evidences of the great sacrifices of the Native Americans, but also the soldiers who pursued them. This is another forgotten spot and one of America's many forgotten battlefields.